Welcome to Live Unashamed, where we pause the show and invite members of our team to talk vulnerably about their own recovery, things they're learning, the resources that are actually working, and what it truly means to live unashamed.
What's up, Steve?
What's up, Sam?
What's up, guy? We were trying a new opening for an episode, guys. How did that sound?
Yeah, here's how you recognize shame when the director of your organization says, hey, why don't you try something new by starting the episode the same way you do every time? And then he just hits record like as if that gives us time to pivot or do something. That doesn't feel shameful at all. Recognizing shame. Okay, so I think we all have talked about shame a lot. Shame is about identity. Guilt's about, the Brene Brown thing.
Yeah.
Shame, the felt experience of being unworthy of love and belonging, or whatever. So,
but a great topic, though, recognizing shame. We could go actually quite a long time on this, in my opinion.
Right. So I think this is so one of my favorite scripture things is the children of Israel, because we love to just beat them up. The other people we love to beat up is the Pharisees.
Mm-hmm.
Right? These idiots who had the law, knew God, and then didn't even know God. What a bunch of losers. And I'm like, you mean us? We are the children of Israel. We are the Pharisees. If you are an active Christian participating in your faith, church, I have a strong argument that all of the dialogue around the Pharisees applies to you on some level, because they absolutely did the walk, they did the doing, right? It's the heart. I just think that's all of us. So why is it that we all think we recognize shame and don't? That's where I want this episode to go. Because we can talk about when I'm having negative self-talk and I'm like, let's get real, right? Sam is like, I recognize my shame. No, you don't. Or we wouldn't be having the experiences we have. You don't recognize it all the time. We just had the thing with your kids.
Totally.
That I'm like, what is with you? And you're like, what do you mean? So I'm just saying, let's just get real about it. We're not recognizing our shame well. Truth?
Well, to your point, if we did, we wouldn't show up the way we do a lot of the time. Because we'd be like, oh, shame, and then we'd do the thing.
Right. Accurate of you?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That is.
As he takes a big gulp, he's all like,
yes.
Sorry, Steve.
Yeah. No, I'm over here making connections.
So what's the deal with that? So I know shame's job is to not be recognizable. So I get it's actively working to not be seen.
Because shame thrives in secrecy, silence, and judgment.
Right. And I think it's the number one tool of the adversary. I think it's the number one thing that Satan uses. Because instead of trying to keep having intersections where Sam's bad or James bad or Steve is bad, if I just convince you that you are bad. Heart of Man. If you haven't seen that movie, go watch it right now. Independent Christian film. At the end when he's in the cave and the Satan character's physically beating on him as he's his prisoner. And then it shifts to where he just starts hitting his own head against the rock. That, to me, is shame.
Mm-hmm.
So, how, knowing that none of us are doing it well, arguably, how do you actually recognize shame real time in your real life?
I'll go first. My first thought that came was, historically, I've struggled with this a lot. I would even say, literally in the last month, I've made a huge step towards recognizing shame. And what changed was I did some really, really intense therapy where I processed some of those scripts that I told myself. Number one being, Sam, you're a bad kid. Number two being, you're a problem and you have to protect people from your problems. For me, that manifested as trying to fix other people's problems and save them from their emotions.
So to zoom that out, I want to make sure I'm understanding you, was looking at your historical shame scripts and doing some of that historical trauma work, healing work, whatever words we want to use, is helping you recognize it today.
Yeah, well, it was hard to step outside of it until I really actually got deep and felt those emotions again and reprocessed it. I mean, I went to Hawaii with you guys just 2 weeks ago, and even since then, after we did some real deep work That was the most pain I have been in probably a decade. Emotional pain,
Mm.
where I had to go back and relive that. And since I came home, I've been more insistent on people treating me with respect because I can identify when I'm getting that message again.
Mm.
It has been so interesting. And so like I'm not letting my boss off the hook with like, giving me the silent treatment or like being really hard on me. And I had a really hard conversation with my sister about the way she's been treating me in a couple aspects of my life. And I never would have done that before, but I just didn't recognize it because I hadn't done the work to get there and see what was happening. And I felt it. Like I really felt it in a deep way I never have before. I don't know what's there, but that's kind of how it's been for me.
That rings true for me. I think looking at some of the historical messages has been really big for helping me see it happening today. That feels true, at least for me in my story.
Yeah. And I think for me to go back kind of like, a thing that helped me see it a lot more for me was boot camp. Because I identified that God saw me in such a lens where he thought the same thing about me I thought about me. Right? So
do you think it takes like an intense setting? Do you think that's necessary?
It might.
Because you brought it up.
Right.
That's
That's exactly what I was wondering too.
Because then you just brought up, you're
Right.
like, well, for me it was boot camp. I'm like, so you did a
intensive
5.5 day therapy intensive deep dive thing. You did a
Deep
3-day
dive,
spiritual men's retreat. That's a deep dive thing. Both of those experiences, I've done both of those. Both were significant for me.
Yep.
My recognizing abandonment of self and my deepest shame scripts was in a therapy intensive. I don't think looked real different from your experience of doing.
Maybe.
And then boot camp for me.
Right.
So does it require that a deep dive experience like that?
I feel like my brain's telling me there's some principle behind that we haven't arrived at. I don't know what it is. There's something that's happening there. And maybe it doesn't have to happen in a really intense environment, but there's something that's happening there that has to happen.
Well, and I do remember like when I first started recovery, just having shame explained to me was enough for me to go, that's my problem. That's for sure my problem. Like I knew it.
Yeah. Well, I felt that way.
Yeah. And so I
Getting
just like
into Brene Brown stuff.
Yeah. And so I
was
just deep dived into Brene Brown and was like, this
woman,
is me.
you don't know me.
Yeah.
On that, right?
Yeah.
And just like, it turns out, right? Well, what is she? I love the Brene Brown quote, the less you talk about it, the more you have of it. And so I'm just trying to think currently, like, I don't know that I really see some of my current shame scripts. I think they hide. So I guess the one that
Are we talking about it enough, you and I?
No.
In our brotherhood.
Probably not.
Right? To go back to that Brene Brown of like.
Well, I'm thinking, so you just went through some stuff with your kids.
Yeah.
That was big for you. I didn't ask you about the shame. Because I did the surface layer stuff of like, your kids making choices doesn't make you a bad dad. Which to me is, I'm not trying to minimize that doesn't need to be said, but that is not James Wilhite's deep shame scripts.
No,
the way
that wasn't it.
Sam's like, I'm in the depths of hell in my soul doing the like that. We weren't going there.
Right.
I was like, you're not a bad dad, dude. Don't tell yourself that.
Right.
But so I didn't ask you that. I don't think we went there.
No, I think, so here's what I'm already taking away from this episode is we got to we like in our brotherhood.
Well, speak for yourself. Don't tell me what to do.
I'm totally telling you what to do. It's
not funny, Sam. This is our real lives.
We're doing this.
This is so enjoyable.
And I'm probably going to need to take that home to, I've got to take that home to my wife, right? Because I can't be having that sit between that relationship. So I'm like, we've got to talk about our shame more together too. Because I'm like, I got to heal some of this. And
this is about to get rocky for me.
Totally.
I'm going to tell you why. I have a total repair script to make because Kayla's shame bothers me big time. Like it's one of the conflicts in our marriage. So I'm like, here's your shame getting in the way of our conversation again. You see where I'm going?
Oh.
Right? Do not hold space for her historical, to what you're saying, Sam, of like, hey, Kayla, I'm curious why your mom shame, wife shame, whatever, not being enough shame is coming up. What is activating that? And so this is where it's about to get real, is she will say, you're shaming me. Like, I feel shame from you. And I'm like, I have never said you're a bad mom. I've never said, why isn't the house clean? I have never said. So in my mind, I am not transferring shame.
And
I know
yet,
I did with all my acting out and the you're
Right,
not
no.
like recovery 101 stuff. Yes, I did all that stuff, of course. But act in the here and now of our marriage now. I'm like, I'm not shaming you. I never say you're not enough. I never have the things. However, I do not think, if I look at my marriage specifically, I cannot right now, if you said, Steve, what are the shame messages operating about you in your marriage? I'm not clear. Right now, sitting here with you, I cannot tell you, Sam, the shame messages for me that are active and talking about recognizing shame. I think I am not recognizing my shame, at least for sure in my marriage right now, of what I am feeling shame about. So this is what I'm making up, knowing what I know. I think I'm totally transferring that shame out of my scope of awareness. Because if I am not recognizing how my shame is showing up to the party,
right.
how would I recognize the shame transference to her? So I'm choosing not to look at my shame, thus missing the transference to her. And then she gives me the feedback, well, I feel shame from you.
And then
And all I've been is
defensive, which
defensive.
is a sign of some shame.
Because the less you talk about it, the more you have of it. Ouch.
Yeah.
Sam, your thoughts?
The less you talk about it, the more you have of it. So the more you talk about it, the less you have of it. But I think the thing that we were talking about when we go to these like the intensives or boot camps or whatever, the thing that happens is we talk about it. That's what I think happens. That's like elementary level, right? We've just rediscovered a truth that I think most people know about shame, but like that's
in roundabout
what
ways,
happens.
It's safe enough or focused enough
Yeah.
or you have nowhere to run and hide
Right.
in those multiple day experiences. So you have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. It's the completely obvious, it seems.
Yeah. So well, to finish that, so the Edward R. Murrow, the World War II journalist, the obscure we see eventually, the completely obvious, it seems, takes longer. The completely obvious is it's those are settings in which we actually just talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's why they're powerful and why shame in the movement that you talk about happens there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. And you can't, the reason, Steve, why, and I'm going through similar thing, not similar situation, but I'm bridging the next level of shame in my life too. The reason why you haven't recognized that is because you never would have realized that 5 years ago or a year ago because you weren't to that level of healing yet. Something opened up and you just barely realized it. And then you go talk about it and you heal it. I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
Because I'm realizing stuff I'm realizing so much stuff in my life right now.
Frankly, just the fact that we're sitting here talking about it on the episode and creating a safe enough environment to be like, hey,
Yeah, sure.
let's talk about the shame instead of not talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like I really uncovered a rock here for me. But I think to bring it full circle as far as an episode, you know, what I would say is whoever you have the most resentment pointed at and whoever you see their shame getting in the way the most, my hypothesis I'm making up is that's probably someone you're doing the most shame transference towards.
Wow.
Which means
That's the theory we're going to look at.
That's probably the indicator of where your shame is. Because, for example, you can come at me about recovery. I'm good.
Yeah.
Send me some nasty email about something we said on one of these episodes. Someone do it in church about how I'm too radical or a hypocrite or not sober enough or give me that narrative.
Sure.
To be honest, in that, I'm like bulletproof over there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, cool, call me an addict. Cool. Like, there is not, like, transfer
the
that
shame's
shame
gone.
to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It, like, that's the like little kid's book with the stickers sticking. And then when they, like, when they felt God's love, the stickers didn't stick anymore. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Shout out
yeah.
Doug Nelson, bro. Love you.
Yeah.
He read that book to us all as adult men at boot camp. We're like weeping and that. So that doesn't stick. Right.
Yeah.
but I could go on and on and on about my marriage forever, which I
Mhm.
think is a deflective, defensive avoidance of me not doing my shame work, choosing to not talk about it.
Yeah.
As you said, Sam, I'm gonna chew on that. I'm gonna chew on
Yeah.
that, so that I maybe turn it on to the two of you, right, and ask that question of who, as we kind of end the episode right now. What I would say is, question to both of you as we leave here, and question to, all those unashamed out there. Whose shame bothers you the most, and who do you have the most resentment towards? How are you identifying their shame? Are you transferring shame to them? And follow that thread back to, what's your shame about? And I think if you have any similarities to me, you might step on some things.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Sam, final word.
You're bringing up some stuff for me. So we'll see if I can get this out. So much of the trauma work that I have done in my recovery has been related to my relationship with my mom. And I have been, I will say at times she has used the victim mentality, I think, to maybe deflect some of, the behavioral changes that I was requesting. I also just realized, as you were talking and opening up and being so vulnerable, I can't even imagine how she must be feeling in our relationship right now, based off of the, how hard I have come at her and how,
You've transferred shame,
transferring
potentially
shame.
unknowingly, because you
Yes.
don't know yours.
Exactly. And I can't, that's what I keep saying this. I'm like, I can't figure out why she acts that way. I don't understand why she's so frustrated.
When
and
the
it's
real
suddenly
question should
making
be,
sense.
why are you so frustrated, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm transferring some major shame there. Thank you for helping
you and me
realize
both, brother. So
Wow.
you help me, so I'm just giving it back.
I gotta dive into that though. That's so helpful.
Which we will. So that's my question to you, outsiders. That's the invitation: is who do you think it's their problem, their shame? Rerun that backwards. Send us an email. Let us know. Hit us up on social media at Unashamed and Unafraid. Become an outsider. Unashamedandunafraid.com/donate. Go ahead and rate us wherever you're listening to this podcast. Rate us, like us, thumbs up it, depending on where you're at, so that more people can get these messages of hope. And until we can connect again, we invite you to continue to be unashamed.